If you have entered into a contract for real estate, and what we would do, have two choices. You have an as-is contract where your is, although you may do your inspection to, notify the seller that you're going to cancel the contract. If you're during the inspection issues that you as a buyer are not going to accept, right? But this work is to have a regular residential contract for sale and purchase. In a regular residential contract for sale, you are buyer and seller, but the seller is agreeing to the level of repairs if in fact something is found. The seller has maybe agreed to pay 1% towards structural damage. Okay. It's usually a capped amount, either a percentage or a dollar amount. Okay. But for the buyer to have the complete right to cancel, if in fact there are issues that the buyer deems unacceptable, you would have to add a rider to that contract, or a rider is specific terms, okay, that we would add to allow the buyer the right to inspect and cancel, okay. So in this, basically, I'm just using a Florida contract rider, but we have a right to inspect and cancel. So we have an inspection period. You can inspect during that period of time. If you're not going to go through with the contract as a buyer, by the seller in writing during the inspection period. Okay. Again, pre-inspection, the buyer cannot damage during the inspection. They have to repair it. But if the buyer, in buyer's sole discretion, determines that the property is not acceptable, the buyer can terminate the contract by delivering written notice to the seller on or before the expiration of the written inspection period. That's so that they can get their deposit back. Now, if in fact they go through with the contract, okay, then, or only notify the seller of termination, then the buyer will go through the contract, and the seller must pay up to the applicable amounts that they've agreed to pay in order to close out any permits, fix any items that require repair, replacement, treatment, and so forth. Gated for continuing maintenance and so forth. And the buyer fails to do the inspection or the walkthrough inspection, and something has happened, and the seller and buyer, the buyer is deemed to have waived those obligations. Okay, what allows the buyer to do is to cancel the contract, but it also allows them to go through with the contract and have the seller pay for the repairs, replacements, treatment, and so forth for the items that they've agreed to up to the applicable amount that they have stated in the contract. Okay. So do keep in mind that this is a one way or an exit strategy for a buyer who's buying a property that they truly have questions about. But it does still make payments towards any kind of repairs and replacements and treatment if in fact the buyer determines that they're going through with it. So if you have any questions or concerns, always give us a call, contact us. We're looking forward to being able to help you with your real estate transactions. And, hopefully you will be successful. Thanks.